Hi everybody, it is time to talk basketball. We have reached the month of October. That means college basketball is mere weeks away. Let's preview this Panthers basketball season. Head coach Pat Baldwin, year number 3 coach, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back, and I'm just ready to go, anxious to get started.
Before we get into basketball talk, we're going to talk about the schedule, we'll talk about the newcomers, we'll talk about the returners, all kinds of stuff to get to in the next little while here. What did you do in your summer vacation? What was the best non-basketball related thing that you or the family did?
Well, I think, one of the things that we did is, I took a vacation. That's rare for me. But we went out to California, enjoyed some of the sunshine out there in Malibu and Santa Barbara, and enjoyed our time a little bit.
I didn't get a postcard though.
Oh, you didn't see it yet? Okay.
I can caught the mail somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
In transit.
When you and your staff wrapped up last season, your postseason meetings, and started looking ahead to this group of guys, what were some of the goals that you wanted to accomplish in the off season? Because I don't know if fans realize or recognize the off-season work, and by that I mean the work that you and the staff do to prepare, even before the guys get back on the floor, is very important to setting that tone and setting the agenda. So what was at the top of the list?
Well, I think first of all, what we wanted to cover is with our guys is just that self-improvement. The off-season is a time where you get a chance to work on your individual game, and but also I wanted our guys to not only think about the physical part of it, but the mental side and that will to win and competing and the commitment that you need in order to play not only basketball but any game. And so I wanted our guys to concentrate on themselves mentally, physically, and then when we came together in the summer, I wanted our guys to really start becoming a more cohesive unit and building that chemistry that you need in order to be a really good team.
We talked a lot last year at this time about how many newcomers and how long would it take to build that cohesiveness that you need on and off the court. When you look back to where this group of guys, the returners now, were a year ago at this time, do you appreciate the work that was put in, and do you appreciate the point you are now where you weren't a year ago?
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate where we are right now, and I look back at last year with so many new guys. It took us a longer period of time to really get to where we wanted to be, and that was because we had a lot of guys that just didn't know whether it was their first opportunity at Division I level or with me. I think that was just something that they had to get used to as well, and kind of the pace and tempo that we work from here. But now in year 3, having those guys with a year under their belt playing in the Horizon League and Division I college basketball, and then also having, we had some guys sitting out but they were here. It's been a much easier transition for all of us to try to get to the point where we're, thinking and talking about winning.
I know one of the players, one of last year's newcomers, Darius Roy, impressed so many, and I'm not just talking about here on Milwaukee's campus, but around the Horizon League, and how many broadcasters, assistant coaches, other coaching staffs came away so impressed with what he brought to the table. Unfortunately, injury bug bit him late last season, but where have you seen Darius improve, and where do you ask him to rise to this season?
I think Darius improved in his, kind of his mindset and his body. He's gotten a lot stronger, and he took a beating last year because he was the first on every one scouting report. So, I commend him on his ability to still score, knowing that everyone was giving him a lot of attention. So where I think he needs to transition this year is stepping into more of a leadership role as well, as one of our seniors, obviously playing a lot, being our leading scorer. That the leadership part is going to be something that I look for even more, even though we have some other guys that can step into that role as well as a leader.
Let's stay on the returners topic for just a couple seconds longer. DeAndre Abram had some very special games last season, and at times certainly was shown to carry that scoring load for you if Darius was maybe out or maybe some foul trouble for him. Where do you ask Dre to take his game to the next level? Because we saw his ability to be so diverse in terms of what he brings offensively, a weapon inside and outside. Where have you challenged Dre?
You know, I challenge Dre in multiple areas of the game, and one of them is trying to get to the free throw line a little bit more. You know, I think he has, you know, with his ability to shoot free throws, if he can get to the line. So I'm trying to get him to post more, drive more, and not just settle on jump shots. He didn't shoot a great percentage last year, so that's one of the areas too that I'm asking him to be a much more efficient basketball player, be a little bit more selective with his shots, and we're working on those different areas. The other area that we want him to move to get even better at, and we're challenging him is on the defensive side and becoming a lockdown defender. And it's funny, and you know, you talk about that. I was just clipping up some stuff on him defensively, you know, and that's just to help him get better. And you know, and the things that we were looking at this year too is looking at all the teams in the NCAA that were tops in field goal percentage defense, whether it was just overall or 3-point percentage defense. The best teams all were in the tops, and they were in the NCAA tournament, and I think 3 of the 4 were in the Final Four. Not to say that that's something that we'll get to, but at the same time, if you want to win your league, if you want to you know, do well nationally, you know, you obviously have to play defense. So Dre, from that standpoint, we want him to improve defensively, and as we do with all of our guys.
You talk defense, and I remember game 1 last year at Boston College, coming away impressed with Ameer Allen's propensity for always being around the basketball. The basketball would find him, and that's no coincidence. I think we saw it in the final couple of weeks, especially I remember the final 2 games against Northern Kentucky and Wright State. He had some really solid games against some pretty potent big men, especially for Wright State. When you look at what Ameer and what you're asking of Ameer this season, what would that be for somebody who was really good his first time around?
Yeah, I'm asking the same thing. I mean, that energy and how hard he plays is absolutely contagious. So I'm looking for that, but also looking for the improvement on the offensive end. And I think he has a ceiling for that, and improving at the free throw line. He wasn't a great free throw shooter, so we're asking him to do that. It's funny that you talk about he was always around the basketball, and especially on the defensive end. You know, we were clipping up some stuff with our guys, and we were talking about what winning looks like. And he was in most of those plays. And I think he does a lot of the grit and the grimy stuff that we would look for in a player that helps you win. So as long as he continues to do that and bring the energy like he does, and our guys really love that and respect it, you know, I think that we'll be pretty good, and I'll be happy with him from that standpoint.
As we talk about some of these men who are now in year 2 of your system here at Milwaukee, how do players go about improving maybe basketball up here? I mean, there's certainly plenty that goes into the physical and the technical and the logistical and all that stuff, but I imagine you expect them to grow between the ears, you know, the basketball IQ, if you will, as much as you want them to grow physically. How do you as a staff do that? Or is it simply the experience will lead them down that path?
Yeah, I think experience has something to do with it. I think just growing up and getting more mature. But then it's also the things that you don't see, the getting into the film room, you know, watching yourself and understanding your role, basically, understanding if it's from an offensive standpoint, how you can get your shot and how you can be better and more efficient that way. You know, if it's defensively, you know, it's a lot of things with footwork and probably more just want to on the defensive side. But, you know, we just have a lot of meetings with our guys and a lot of group stuff that, you know, we talk about the game a lot with our guys to help them from that standpoint, a lot of classroom stuff. And now that we have them even more in the fall, we do a ton of classroom teaching and watching film and really breaking it down to the nuts and bolts of the game.
Do you prefer one over the other? As a coach, would you prefer to be in the classroom breaking down film, or is there nothing like being on the court for you?
I think it's both. I really do. I think, if we talk about it and then we have our guys see it and now they go out onto the floor and execute, I think that's just, part of their learning and their development. So I prefer both. And even some may say you don't have enough time, but there's always opportunities that you can get those guys in the film room so they can see whether it's great things that they're doing or, some of the deficient areas that we need to continue to work at. And I don't want to sacrifice that classroom time because it's valuable too. And then on the floor, we just have to be as efficient as we can be in the amount of hours we get to work with our guys.
Let's turn our attention to some of the new names, but names that fans recognize because they were on this roster last year, albeit redshirting. Te'Jon Lucas, Milwaukee native, transferred from Illinois, has gotten a lot of publicity, had to redshirt last year, could practice, but again, could not play in the games. And I always admire a kid who goes through that. Now he's practicing with the intent of playing in games. I know his fire burns strongly. It did last year. What is it like right now knowing he'll be playing?
Yeah, I was looking at a picture of Te'Jon. It was just a caption of him guarding and just that intensity and that look. And when I saw that picture, I knew exactly what he was saying live. So I'm extremely happy, with that. But, for him, it's that burning desire that he has to win, the will to win, all of those things is very apparent. He's a tremendous leader. He may not come across as loud and vocal and all of that stuff, but his, just the things, his intangibles that he brings to the table is really good. And I'm glad that he's able to play right now. I was trying to put him in last year, but I would have gotten in trouble.
Yeah, I think a little bit. His leadership skills are something that you and the staff and his teammates last year raved about. Again, with the knowledge that he would not be able to play and participate in the games themselves. What do you expect from him from a leadership standpoint? Because I know as a leader that you were on the court and now off the court, you crave that, especially from your backcourt, especially from your point guards.
Yeah, I want him to be even more vocal. I think last year when you don't play, sometimes your words don't sit as well with guys, and they're like, well, wait a minute, you're not even out here, so how can you say something? But I think our guys still respected that. But now that he's playing and out there on the court, like you talked about, with the intent and knowing that he's preparing for this season, it's going to be really good for our guys. And he does it. He leads in a subtle way, just like I said. Sometimes it just might be one-on-one. There are times too that he gets in the huddle, and his voice does become a lot louder, which I want a lot more from him.
Explain, if you could, the dynamic that you anticipate with Darius Roy and Te'Jon Lucas in the backcourt. Not that maybe you've schemed and planned it all as to how it's going to play out, but right now, what are you willing to share in terms of how we might see those two guys and how they play off each other?
I did scheme and plan how it would play out, but
probably many times in your head already.
Many times over and over, even last year. But they're two unique guys, and Darius is a scorer. He's a kid that while we played him at the point, I think his natural tendency is to try to put the ball in the basket. I think Te'Jon, his natural thing that he loves to do is play make. And not that Darius can't, but play make and get others involved, whether it's by him scoring or by him passing the basketball. And so I think those two dynamics working together, I think is really good. And I think there's a great balance with those two, even if they're on the floor together.
Another young man that we saw on the bench last year, redshirting USC transfer Harrison Henderson. And we talked so much last year about your size, your team's size and their length, and he'll certainly add to that resume as the team as a whole.
Yeah, in my opinion, Harrison is probably one of the most talented offensive players that I've seen. I mean, he can handle the ball like a guard. He can shoot even from NBA 3. And he's a good passer. And the thing that I'll challenge him with is on the defensive side, but he's gonna add a tremendous dimension to our team, whether we go big or we go small. So I'm looking forward to when we actually get to see him against other teams.
And Shayne Mitchell was a young man who could have played last year, and you and the staff, and with his obviously agreement, chose to redshirt. And I remember, watching Shay and seeing him from game to game while he's sitting out, spent a lot of time in the weight room. I mean, I think if we looked at a profile shot of him today versus a year ago at this time, would be markedly different. He's ready. He's ready.
Yeah, no question about it. That was him sitting out was the best thing for him in redshirting, because he came in, I think, about 169, 170, and now, I talked to him yesterday. He's right around 200 pounds, so he gained a lot of weight, a lot of good.
Muscle.
It's all muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a.
No.
If you would have saw him last year, you would have said, "Wow, he needs to be fed." but yeah, he's gained a ton of muscle. Working with Tijon, working with Harrison a lot, really was really good for him and his maturation and indoctrination into how you work. And so I think what he can bring to the table for us is an ability to shoot the basketball. He has excellent size and length, and similar to what Jake brought to us last year, a guy that can shoot the three. He can definitely shoot it, and I want him, and I'm going to have all the confidence in the world to shoot it. And I'm going to coax him into shooting some, because he passes up on a little bit too. But I'm excited about his opportunities coming up.
We're going to get to the schedule, but I just want you to comment on one other newcomer that fans perhaps don't know, and that's Josh Thomas. I know who you're very high on him and have been pleased with what you've seen in camp already from Josh. Yeah,
we've been really excited with Josh, along with we have some two freshmen that I really love as well. But Josh he's a kid that's seen college basketball at some level. High scorer from Wabash Valley Community College, and now he comes in here, along with Darius and Tijon, and in that backcourt along with Dre, that can really be formidable for us. And I'm excited about him because he's an athlete. He's strong. He can guard multiple positions, and he just brings that. That contagious excitement that you want from a kid, and always has a smile on his face. And so love him. And then we have Courtney and CJ. And I think they have a chance to be pretty good. And they're really competing against our returning guys. And I think they're going to have a shot to help us.
You mentioned the competition that goes on in practice. That's another one of those maybe X factors that will make your team better. You talked about it last year, when last year's guys, Darius or Bryce Barnes, would be going up against Tijon in practice. Yeah. Now that internal competition, that benefits everybody, whether you're starting, whether you're the first man off the bench, whether you're towards the end of the bench. It's a benefit to everybody involved.
I think so. I really do. When you have that competition, it just elevates your game. And last year, we didn't have a lot of depth, and Darius and Dre, they had to play a ton of minutes, and that hurt us towards the end of games where we didn't have the legs or the strength to close out games or catch up whatever we had to do. But now I think with the depth that we have and the competition in practice, it'll just hopefully make our play a lot better. And then at the end of games where hopefully we don't have to wear out guys in their legs. That bodes well for us finishing games a lot stronger.
And again, we've just scratched the surface. We'll do this again, Coach, as we get closer to the season beginning. We'll dive deeper into maybe some of the different positions and the personnel. But before we wrap this one up, get your thoughts on this schedule. Let's talk non-conference first of all. You start with 5 straight home games, and then you head to the Bahamas. Like last year when you guys went over to Northern Ireland, another opportunity for your guys to get a pretty cool life experience in addition to playing basketball.
Yeah, it's great. I love our non-conference schedule. I think there's still some really tough challenges in there that will test to see where we are going forward. And for us to play, North Dakota again like we did last year, UM Casey with the new coach and the coach that I'm extremely familiar with, and Eastern Illinois coming in here, and then going to the Bahamas. Are you invited to that?
I am. I am allowed to travel internationally. I got clearance from the government, so I'm good.
Excellent. But no, we're excited about it, and our guys are. I just think that they're just ready to play, and then with that we play Kansas and we play Wisconsin, which are two games that I know our fans love. I think our kids love as well, because they're competitors and they want to see where they stand. And by the time that we get to our conference, I think we'll have a true understanding of who we are, and then we can tweak and make adjustments based upon how we finish off in our non-conference.
I've got to follow up, because we can't just, gloss over the fact that Kansas, if depending on how things play out in the first month, 5 weeks, it could be the #1 team in the country by the time you guys head to Fog Allen Fieldhouse. As a native of Leavenworth, Kansas, and I know you certainly are going to get your guys ready, but at some point, will you be able to kind of take in and recognize a little bit more special for you because of that location and your roots in that state?
Absolutely. I mean, Kansas is a school that recruited me when I was coming out of high school. So, being able to go home, but also coach in one of the most historic arenas in college basketball and probably in basketball in general, it will be great for me. But also I wanted the experience for our guys, and to play in an environment like that. And I want our team to be tough. And the only way you find out how they are is playing in tough environments like Kansas, like going to the Kohl Center in Wisconsin. So, and then in the Bahamas, it's a really good mid-major tournament against very good teams. So I wanted the environment to see how tough our guys were as well, or are, and hopefully we'll find those things out. But I'm looking forward to that, going out that way, and hopefully we acquit ourselves pretty well out there.
Hard to believe, exhibition opener at the Klatsche Center against Cardinal Stritch is October 31st. Coach, we're back at it, and we'll do this again before we get to that exhibition opener. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's the coach, Pat Baldwin. We'll have more ongoing as we tick towards tip-off right here on the Black and Gold Network.